Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good day, wherever you are, all over the world, wherever you're watching us from. Thank you so much for joining us on Mr. and Mrs. And we have yet again another interesting episode. Like we say all the time now, we're always trying to do something different all the time. And so I think if you followed us last week where we were launching this Keep On Loving with Mr. and Mrs., you will know what we're talking about. So today is another phenomenal episode, which we are so excited about.
We are celebrating and we are talking to a couple that's been married for 25 years. Mm-hmm. And before we began, we're just saying, guys, 25 years.
It's not a joke.
It's not a joke. 25 years, day in, day out, waking up next to this person, talking to this person, and keeping on loving this person for 25 years. So it's going to be an amazing discussion.
Absolutely. But before we get into the business of the day, we need to pay some bills.
Yeah.
So we're going to say a big shout out to Just Home. As you can see, we are located right in the heart of Westgate Shopping Mall. You will forgive the noise that you will hear because people are still walking around. We're in a shop, Just Home. You want to tell us a little bit about Just Home?
So Just Home is a furniture shop. If you want to transform your home from being a house to being a home, any room at all in your home, Just Home are the people to get in touch with. They've got 2 branches at Westgate and at 5th Avenue Shopping Center. This is right here in Harare. So make sure that you get in touch with them to just make sure that you put your home in order.
Absolutely. And also, we want to give a big shout out to Crystal Gate Bookshop. Also right here in Westgate Shopping Mall, you will find Christian gifts, you will find books written by even local authors, anything that you may want, any sort of Christian merchandise that you require, you can find it at Crystal Gates Bookshop at Westgate Shopping Mall. They also make amazing coffee, by the way, so you've got to make sure that if you're local, you have to visit Crystal Gates Bookshop and Just Home. All right, so 25 years. Today we are joined by the amazing, the phenomenal, a lot of people, they're popularly known as Vincella. So we'll let them talk through all of that. But thank you so much for agreeing to come. They are busy. They are, corporate heads of major organizations, but just for them to take the time out to come and sit with us and speak to us, just them seeing the value of marriage for us, it truly humbles us. So thank you so much for coming through and joining us today.
Thank you, Simba. Thank you, Ivy, for having us.
Thank you very much, guys. You are so bubbly. And thank you also. I just want to say, we feel at home at Just Home.
Thank you.
Wow.
As we do this, we are so comfortable. It's a shop, yes, but they've made us feel so comfortable. So we are going to enjoy the ride because we've already been made come. Thank you so much. May God bless you guys.
Amen.
We believe that every marriage is worth fighting for.
Absolutely.
So take us through
25 years. My goodness.
Can you, in fact, I think the first thing that I want to know, when you were celebrating, this was last week, right?
Yes.
When you celebrated your 21st anniversary. Could you look back and see a difference in your marriage from the first year, or rather maybe the first years of your marriage with where you are at now? Could you see a major difference there?
Absolutely, yeah. The thing that we always look back at is how adventurous, risk-taking, how we would just go all out without even sometimes pre-planning, and sometimes lots of accidents, sometimes lots of good surprises. But right now we are so cautious to the dot that even just to try and go for shopping, we can't go without writing the shopping list. So it's so amazing, and she would not mind me tucking the shirt outside or inside, but right now she's saying, I think you need to tuck your shirt. These are the things that we are celebrating. We are celebrating what I would call the changes of seasons, the changes of times, the maturity that I see in her, the maturity that she sees in me. So we're celebrating lots. 25 years. To be honest with you, it looks very old, but we saying will not be taken afoot with the 25 years. By the way, we've known each other more than 25 years, so we don't want to tell you how long it is now, but we still celebrate the 25 years.
Wow, a lot of people say not a lot of people, but there's some people that say, joke and they say, marriage can be you marry and you age. Marriage. But we look at you, you're still looking so young. 25 years in marriage, you're looking so young, so fresh, so in love. What would you say are some of the things that contributed to these positive changes that you're talking about and the maturity that you're talking about?
Okay, I think so much. I'm so excited to be here. One thing that we have learned over the years, Simba and Ivy, is that just love on its own is not enough.
Wow.
There are some key significant components of a happy marriage that cannot be ignored. One of them, especially one which we had to learn in our early years of marriage, is the power of agreement.
Right.
Working together as husband and wife. That compatibility, the trust, the respect, the honesty, all those things are components that are so key for you to have a good marriage. We always laugh with my husband when we talk about the power of agreement, that with a young couple, for example, you can be wanting to furnish your house. Funny, we are in a furniture shop actually, and you say, one says, it's time we buy a fridge. The other one says, no, not a fridge. Let's prioritize a TV, for example. And then for either of you not to win the argument, you end up buying sofas. So you actually can fill your house with things that you did not want it all because you are keeping a scoreboard to say who has won this time, next time they will not win. If I lose the argument this time, next time I have to win. So the issue of walking in power of agreement is very critical.
Right.
Of course, we'll talk about it more.
Thank you very much, my love. On top of the power of agreement, I want to say something that most probably we all know because we are all in marriages. There's recreational companionship. So when you're dating, do you know recreational companionship flows effortlessly? You're going to watch movies, you're going to walk in the garden park together. You're almost like there's like a nice river flowing. You get married after the wedding. The recreational companionship that was just drawing you together. Now is the thing that you are almost, the husband now is going to soccer with his buddies. The wife is now going to these clubs or Zumba, all these on their own. And she said, what happened to recreational companionship? So it's also a way we need to visit that. What were we excited about before we got married? Now that we are almost doing separately. Because you could have watched movies holding hands together before the wedding. After the wedding, one is watching the movie somewhere, one is watching somewhere on the tablet, and you are all drawing a different pathway. And we are saying that it's important and it's possible to maintain the recreational companionship spirit that you had even before you.
It's so interesting you should say that. As you were mentioning, I remembered you talked about walks. I remember the one time we went to watch a movie. If you're not in Zimbabwe, it's a place called Avondale. But where we were going to catch our transport was right in town, so the distance. We decided to walk from Avondale to go into town, not because we didn't have the money, but we were enjoying the conversation that we were having. And we were talking, and it's just interesting to look back and think, but we could do that. We could walk a distance of maybe 10 kilometers, not because we can't find transport, but because we are enjoying just the conversations.
Wow! And you guys just to walk from here to the same station. And you have arguments. You can walk on your own. But we need to revisit this type of scenarios that we had prior to us wedding. And this stage, we also give it a term we call it a revelation stage. So the revelation stage is the wow factor.
Oh,
this is
she's
my
the
wow.
one.
This is the
That's
one.
the one.
You can't spend the day without talking to her, etc. So it's the revelation. It's a wow factor, and you can almost move any mountain for your boyfriend or for your girlfriend. I've got a good, interesting example that sometimes I would go. She used to stay in Chitung as a Unit K. So sometimes I had no car road, so I would catch on to some buses just to try and and talk to her and see her. And lo and behold, the mother and the father are in the house. So she's not allowed
To come out.
to come out.
Yeah.
So guess what? I would sit across the road and just watch her washing the dishes.
Oh my God.
And after 3 hours, I go back. Without even
And you know,
Wow.
sweetie, funny talking about that when we share with our kids and
Wow.
we tell them that the way the new generation defines love is a bit different from the way we used to, because then I would see my husband maybe just three times a year. That would be
Three
like
times a
during
year.
holidays,
Yes.
school holidays, because the rest of the times we would be writing
Yes.
letters to each other, communicating and telling and pouring each other's heart out. So up to now we've got loads and loads of letters.
letters,
You know.
yeah.
So we say to our sons, when you guys are about to get married, we allow you to do letters. But the idea we are talking about is that the revelation stage, when you say, oh, she's the one, you are then inspired and you say, look, will you marry me? Because now you want to stay with this person over and over again. You formalize, right? The marriage, you say the I do. And after that, the journey starts. So I'm happy that, you know, God has been good to us. This is 25 years later from our formalization. And we've got a bit to share about the journey.
and you are stronger. The forces that come against you during the revelation and the inspiration stage, they can never take you apart. And it's typical biblical that love is as strong as death, and no quench of fire that can take away. If love is at its intensity during the dating stage, you're almost, that's why people are able to do whatever they can.
Right.
And that fire is what we want to make sure that it's taken. It may not be the same, but we want to make sure that it persists straight after the wedding.
Wow. And so in terms of the 25 years, was there premarital counseling involved in your marriage, and how would you say it has helped you to last the 25 years? Because sometimes we go through premarital counseling, and a lot of the couples that we have taken through premarital counseling, premarital counseling is really taken as just a formality. That we're about to get married, and so sometimes in the church that we're getting married in, we cannot be allowed to to have the ceremony without us going through the formal premarital counseling within the church. So it's just, let's just do it as a way to tick the box. But does it really help, and to what extent does it help, and has it helped you in the 25 years of your marriage?
What I'll answer them. I ask my wife also, then dovetail. I want to give a good example. Now, this example happened to me. We were in Vic Falls. I will just try and summarize. So we were taking off from Vic Falls Airport, and the plane was small, Air Zimbabwe plane. It hit a bed. It was a big noise. So everyone in the plane was panicked. Fortunately, the pilot was level-headed. So he spoke to us that, guys, we think we've hit a bed. We are going to make a U-turn and we will land back at the airport. So the plane managed to land, and we went out of the plane, and then they checked everything, and then they said you can come in. Now on the coming in, number one, all the passengers were saying, can you not get another plane? So the pilot says, guys, I'm telling you, I'm the pilot.
Okay.
We're very okay. So we got into the plane. Now, when we got into the plane, the air hostess give you all the rigmarole. Should the plane do this? Then this time the air hostess says, do you want us to do that again? Everyone says yes. I'm saying this so that you know about marital. Sometimes you say, what they're telling us, come on. But intermarriage, you've hit a bad, you have hit a bad time. You know what I'm saying? By the way, what were we told during premarital? Because what we are also advertising, we were advertising to the soon-to-be couples. We are saying take down notes. Don't just read take down notes, because take down notes, you have got something to refer back to.
Yeah.
Because at that time, everything that you are being taught by the pastors, we went through premarital, and we were like that. We were laughing. Why are you talking about communication? We talk a lot. Why are you talking about this? We are agreeing, we loving each other. But intermarriage, you say, wow, let's read those notes.
So basically, I like your example.
It's so good.
It actually says it all. That number one, premarital counseling is very important. It may not be, you may not be a very good listener or taking in everything that is being said, but it assists you in having a relationship with an older couple where you can always go to
That's
if
good.
things go
That's
wrong.
create a good
That's
relationship.
number one. Then number two also, it's ultimately it's up to the couple to say, let's make a decision to take the advice that is being given. So much as premarital counseling is very important, ultimately the decision to implement what you have been told is yours.
Right.
And we are here saying that one thing that has helped us over the 25 years of marriage is that we are implementers in our marriage. I'll give you an example. In the first 2 years or so of our marriage, I had a problem in that where I was coming from. You know how our backgrounds affect who we are and even how we perceive marriage. One of the things I used to think I should use when I really want to win an argument with my husband was to say, I'll sulk. I'll give him silent treatment,
Right.
you know, and that will communicate that even though, you know, I may not be saying no and I'm also not saying yes, so I'm grudgingly sort of like agreeing, but you know, it really wasn't good. But for me, I thought that was a good tactic, you know, for me to get my way. And when it took counseling for us, this was now even post-marriage,
Right.
to say, look,
Post-wedding.
actually, when post-wedding things with it, even when you do that and you give your partner silent treatment, you are communicating even louder. You are actually saying in your silence, yeah, I'm rebellious, I don't care what your emotions are, and so forth, because you are choosing not to be vulnerable, to take a superior position. So when that was said to me and it was broken down at a counseling session, how terrible that was, I went back home. I said to my husband, sweetheart, me, this wife of yours, you will never see me sulk again in my life. If I've got an issue with you, I'll say it. I may wait for the right time. I may wait for the right tone to come out, but I will eventually say it out so that I don't carry it in me. And it was a personal decision that I made out of a counseling session. So how have I been doing this?
She's done so well. So she engages, she probes, she asks. So even if there's an ongoing contentious issue, you find that we are willing to deal with it. We are willing to go blow by blow. We are not going to sweep anything under the carpet. And she rightly said it. Do you know that sometimes getting a license for a car is not just good enough? So when my two sons got their license, what I did was I sat down with them and I said, you guys got your licenses, but listen, I'm gonna teach you from the heart what it is to drive.
Right.
So number one, I said, can you change a spare wheel? Dad, we're not taught at the driving school. And I said, you see now. So then I had to take the car out, took the wheel by myself, put the jagger on, etc. I said, guys, watch. So I took the wheel out, then I brought it back again. And I said, now it's your turn, guys, to do it. Of course, they made lots of errors. You see, you didn't understand properly when I told you, take the wheel spanner, do A, B, C, D. But what I liked, after about an hour, the guys could be able to put a spare wheel on that car by themselves. And I believe that sometimes if we don't do the concept of learning how to replace a flat tire, the flat tire will happen in marriage. And you will not know how to replace that. And we are saying that because of the things that start coming in, what I'm calling the variables increase in marriage. First year, second year, now we're talking of children. You will have children that you did not have. I had problems when our firstborn son came. So our firstborn son came. My goodness me, the first week the young man was crying throughout the whole night. So I helped her without fail. I would say, no, sweetie, go and sleep. I would try and comfort the baby. I said, one night it really got me, and I took the baby, and I said, Jeremy, we had peace in this world. But a miracle happened. Jeremy, keep quiet. So I said, did you know what I was saying? But it's a good example that, you know, this variable, not our, this guy is disturbing our peace in the bedroom. We've not gone through counseling how to handle new babies, firstborn babies in your marriage. So these things, they need somebody who needs to walk the talk with you.
So interesting, you speak of conflict. And we're going to put you on the spot here. What particular area in your first years of marriage would you say this was our almost constant area of conflict? If we are having conflict in the home, it was almost always about this issue.
She will answer. I will shoot straight from the hip.
Yeah, I'm interested in the example.
It was finances. It was cash. Handing
That's
cash.
the one.
My background necessitated that I know that cash will always be there.
Right.
Okay.
Her background necessitated that every dollar must be saved.
Wow.
Okay.
We can spend later, but every dollar that comes
Wow.
must be saved.
Wow.
But from my point of view, money, we can always get. Let's spend it now. Tomorrow we'll get it.
That's
Can
true.
you
See,
explain that?
actually, that's it. So we had to
Wow.
identify who the spender and who the saver
Right.
is in our home. Because I think my husband said that where I was coming from, you know, we had little, so we knew that we couldn't just be spending. Where he was coming from, they had abundance. Where we were buying like a 1-2 liter drink, they would get
Two
a crate,
tissue rolls.
a crate,
No.
you know. So the thinking was already different.
Yeah.
So it took us to understand each other and to sit down and to say, okay, sweetie, so out of this money that we are having, let's start to budget together. Okay, sweetie, even when you are the spender, I'm glad that he was, because a lot of the things we then bought in our home, we wouldn't have bought them if I was the one who was in charge. And looking at how prices then went, inflation and all, I realized that it was good that we had
Right.
a spender. At the same time, we also had to have the saver, who was me at that point in time for that rainy day. So I think the issue of finances was a key issue in our marriage. And I'll just give you one example. We are vulnerable. We've written a book, by the way, coming one, where we are very
I've
vulnerable.
co-authored this book.
Yes, my husband and I. So where we've actually talked a lot about our mistakes in the first years. One of the things we had to do was we realized that you cannot take debt for consumption.
You can't.
You know, those days there was a supermarket, I will not mention the name, where you would go and they would give you credit to buy cornflakes, sugar,
Anything.
consumables,
Ready to buy salt.
salt, and you know,
Wow.
like everything that's in the supermarket.
Right.
So my husband, being the abundant mentality spender that he was, you know, it would have visitors, friends. Our house would always be full of things, drinks, even those things that you don't need. Until we realized, wow, we're actually struggling to make the repayments for that food. I remember we actually did a small ceremony between the two of us. We took the card, we cut it in half,
Wow.
we bent it,
Wow.
we held hands and we prayed. We said, we want to be delivered from the spirit of debt. Never
Wow.
again will we spend money that we do not have on consumables.
Do you know we had to sell my empty bottles for the drinks we bought from that supermarket on credit to another bottle store so that we get money? So just to show you how bad debt was to us. And the thing that most probably I also need to salute my wife for was she then quietly used to save some money. So sometimes when really things were bad, she would say, don't worry, my love, I've got some money. They would say, where did you get the money? No, you remember, I'm the saver. So it helped, it did help,
So
You
to
know
couples out there, we just want to say you don't have to make the same mistakes again.
You can
Now
do it.
you are more, enlightened. Why not budget together? Why not be more systematic in your finances?
That's so good, but I want to take you back to that ceremony. Who between the two of you initiated that? Who and how did you get to be on board? You know, because a lot of the times I think a lot of couples will end up continuing to sink because there's one who is refusing to acknowledge the situation, or rather there's one who's refusing to see sense, and you just keep on getting deeper and deeper and deeper into it. But how did you get to that level where you have that common understanding to say, okay, fine, listen, the enemy here is not the two of us, the enemy is this state.
Yes.
How did that come about, and how did you then,
Yeah, what I must give credit that it's not really come up from the two of us, but I remember number one, a man of God who was preaching on the power of debt. As the Bible says that a borrower is a slave
To the lender.
and I looked at it and I said, you know what, I'm actually becoming a slave. We're actually becoming slaves. We had to meditate, we had to ponder it, and we realized that we are in a debt trap, and we need to come out of it. And I like the pastor, he says you have to be deliberate, husband and wife. You have to stop. There's no way you're going to stop it unless you're deliberate as husband and wife. So we then decided that, listen, we want out of this. We will not stay longer in this position.
But also just to say, Simba, the question that you ask is very key, and it applies to a lot of conflict areas, maybe that we've had or that other couples can also have. Each of us, we God has blessed us. We've got the ability to actually say sorry, and I have the ability to be vulnerable and to admit that I am wrong. And I want to thank God that my husband is also the same. So sometimes, even when, like in a family setup, when people want to knock sense into him, they'll say, can you go and talk to them? It will get to him, and the other way around. And I remember even my sons were saying, if you want to get to mama, just convince daddy.
Right.
The other way around.
Wow.
So there is a place in our marriage, Simba and Ivy, where we give each other like the place to trust the other more than yourself. And it has helped
To
us,
trust
the other person more than yourself. Because
so
I
good.
know that Vincent has got my interest at heart. You will laugh about this, but just recently now, fast forwarding recently, there was a job advertisement, actually my current role, which is very senior. I'm not at liberty to say what job it is there, but when the advert came out for that job, I really was like, sweetie, I don't want to apply because I had my whole reasons, but my husband kept saying, no, sweetie, this is your time. You can actually get this thing. We were talking, the two of us. It got so bad that he's my friend, but there are times that he speaks to me in my life as my pastor.
Wow.
So I know that this is just my husband talking, my lover, my friend, but there are times when he says, no, sweetie, this is the direction you're going to go towards. And I've personally learned to respect that because of what has happened in the past, So now, at this point in time, he then spoke to me like that. I said, sweetie, this job, this is the God moment for you in your career. And it was so bad, but I actually wrote to him a letter. This is like last year. I wrote to him and he says, the reason why I hear you, Pastor, the reason why I can't do this is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Points were fine.
There were 6 points.
Yeah.
Wow.
6 points.
Written down.
Yeah, written down.
Pastor.
Yeah. And then when he read them, and then he said, okay, I've heard. I said, all right, sweetie. Then I think the applications were closing on the Friday. By the Wednesday, I said, sweetie, okay, so what do you do? Because we agree that when we make big moves in our lives, whether it's marketplace, whether it's career, whether it's children, we have to agree.
Right.
We have to convince each other and say this is the right direction. So I eventually put in my application into that job. And then I said, okay, that was on the Wednesday. I was called. Apparently, there were more than 26 candidates, and I came first. I ended up with the job, and now we both love it. And I said to him, sweetie, you know what? At that point in time, what made me even then prepare for the interviews, I could trust him more than myself. And it turned out it was the right decision because we're seeing what God has been, how he's been taking me through if I had disobeyed him. So there are times you can have a marriage where you get to a point where you actually trust the other person more than yourself. Yeah.
And when God carries you through that type of phase, so we always laugh because she's constantly asking me, what had you seen for me, for you to consistently push me to apply for this job? And I would say, do you know what? Don't continue asking me because I think it was God. Because I want to take the credit.
But while you're there, can I
so
ask
good,
though how, as a husband, this is a very senior position, and you're pushing your wife into a senior position. Thoughts of she may have more influence, she may have more recognition in the marketplace than I do. She may
Even
income-wise, she may then grow an attitude against me or a status. How did you manage that?
Right. Very powerful question. I like that question. It's actually very deep. Let me start by answering that. There's a journey that we have walked in the 25 years. That journey had seasons. Obviously, it had summer, autumn, winter, spring. And in every season, we learned to pick what I call takeaway home, saying, listen, during this winter period, we really had a bad time, my love. But here's what God has just taught us. Just taught us that we need to rely on each other. I know you when you are standing up there, that I know where your heart is. Let me say that for God to make David king of Israel, it was from their heart and what God had seen. So for me, I was no longer that afraid that if my wife gets to that job, will she ever think of me? Will she not forget me? No, I'd realized that this is what God had prepared us during the past seasons. Yeah, and I know that she's got the capability of going there. And because her attitude perfect. By the way, we are pastoring a semi-rural church. So it's one of those things that God tested us with. That you guys, would you go to the Del church, to the high not suburb church, or if I tell you to go there, will you go? And now, when we are obedient to that, I knew that God says, I can take you anywhere, guys. We can, because your attitude, because of your view, because of your faith, and because of what is inside. So I was not even disturbed. Even when she got the job, I said, you know what, my love, you're going to flourish. And I even prophesied the next job to her. It says, now let's leave it.
Let's keep it here.
You know, I absolutely, I just want to make a point. It's not a question, it's just it's an observation I've made. I love how you have made yourselves a unit, you know, subconsciously. Because you just said that God trusted that He will take us. If you guys go to the northern suburbs, where you go, but if I take you to that semi-rural and you go, I cannot trust to take you there. But what happened is she got the promotion, she got the job, but you put yourself in there to say God has taken both of you. But I mean, that's so profound that you will still be able to see what God has done for her, but also be able to put yourself in there, you know, without that, you know, inferiority complex to say, well, no, that's her victory, that's what she's accomplished, that's what she's achieved, but that's what we have done, that's where God has taken us. So,
see, can we just go a bit deeper about this? This is a very important topic. In fact, this power of agreement and power of being a unit is when the enemy, the devil, has been ravaging how in marriages, because he wants to separate us instead of us being one. So talking about being a suitable helper as a wife, one of the biggest tests that I've had was when we had to leave a city church and go to a semi-rural church. I remember when God spoke to my husband very clearly, you know, that's what we're supposed to do. I was like, hey, sweetie, can we really leave all this? You know, we had been part of this big vision in Bare for 21 years. We built the church, we built the couples there, and our things were going for us. You know, one of those places where you're walking into the church and everyone is greeting you. You know, you're so comfortable. And you're comfortable. You're comfortable. Then now we're supposed to go and start cutting trees. You know, and I said to my husband, suppose I wouldn't be even wearing all those high shoes which I had bought. This is a totally new world. And then, just to show you how deep this is, I also personally then went and sought God and said, Mary, is this what we are really supposed to do? I can never be doing something different from my husband. I can't go to a different church. I can't, and he has set out the direction. This is where we are going. And lo and behold, God spoke to me very clearly in a dream. And at that point in time, I realized the power of agreement and being a suitable helper sometimes calls you to go out of your comfort zone.
Wow.
Lo and behold, when we now went there, you know, things have been so good. We now have got the church built up, roofed. We even have a school that is saving the community that came out of that. And now I understand why. And in my current job, although it's a very senior position in government, it also deals a lot with the marginalized. So I can see how his life and my life cannot be separated. And this is not special just for Priscilla and Vincent, by the way. because God is no respecter of persons. So if you, your wife and your husband, you just decide and say, sweetheart, we are going to be one. We are going to work together. We are going to agree. Let's convince her that to move in a certain direction. God too will bless you.
Yeah, let me say this profound statement. Eve was not taken out of Adam's head to top him. Eve was neither taken out of Adam's feet to be trampled upon, but out of his side, so that Eve can be equal with him, under his arm to be protected. So the rib also represents the protection, and then also the rib is closer to the heart. So Eve was taken out of him so that Adam may love him. So if we have love, if we get that concept that my wife is actually my equal. I've always said that Adam was created whole but not complete.
Right.
So Adam was completely whole.
Right.
God makes all things beautiful. He's a perfect God. But he did not complete because he knew that Adam will need Eve. So sometimes in our marriage, there's certain areas that you actually need your spouse. You may not realize it, but if you look closely, you realize, hey, I actually cannot do it on my own. I actually need my wife. I actually need my husband.
That's good.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what you've just said, I think you have just you have put it in a way that's not the usual, where you have said God made Eve from the rib for equality, and yet the picture that is given is not of equality. And so you've just brought in a different dynamic there, and I like how you are saying, because of you recognizing the equality, you can receive even counsel from her. So that is so profound. That is so profound.
You know, maybe this going into the 25 years, I know we're mentioning this off air, that every marriage goes through different phases through the 25 years. Maybe why don't you talk us through is the first 5 years the same as the next 5 and the next 5 and the next 5? Can you say today, 25 years into your marriage, you look back and you say, well, these are the same things that we were going through when we were 7 years in marriage? Are there different phases? Because I know I've once heard someone sort of doing a parallel comparison between marriage and age, in terms of children growing up, that they are toddler ages, then they are adolescent ages, and they're teenagers, and is it the same as marriage as well? What does that mean?
Thank you very much. And indeed, marriage has got seasons, marriage has got stages. You'll find that we have decided to put it into 7 years. So the first 7 years, the next 7 years, which brings you to your 14, the next 7 years, which brings you to your 21, the next 7 years, which brings you to your 28. So in terms of our marriage, because we're celebrating 25 years, we are now on the next
to 28.
28. And we will try and pick some examples for each stage. What are the demands? What are the lookouts? What are the things to watch out for? So you find the first 7 years, my wife would rightly be able to answer there, because that ushers in children. So it's far much different, because you are having to mind another person that came from both of you. So, and this person has got their own demands, and this person, they want their own world, and their tantrums, there are things to be handled there. And also, coupled with that, that person wants to sleep in your bed. One of the challenges that I really faced, and I told my wife that, you know what, God help me in this one here. Our firstborn son would love to sleep breastfeeding. So, when he's breastfeeding, his feet now are against me. So literally saying, you are. So I said, watch what this young man. Can you believe it? He's putting his feet against me whilst he's breastfeeding. But those are the demands now that you have that you had that territory in the bed. And you've got the demands of accommodating in-laws. So I'm having to accommodate her siblings. She's the firstborn. Her siblings were all school going. We had to pay school fees. My father-in-law passed away 3 weeks before our wedding. Thank God he blessed us before he passed on. But we had to then also take on that baggage that these siblings, they need to go all the way to university. Thank God that we managed to take all of them to university. But those are the demands that were in our first 7 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So yes, you can have stages. As my husband says, the learning years, like your first 7 years generally, you are learning each other, you are learning new things, you are learning to stay with someone at close range 24/7, and you are dealing with issues that are outside just who you are. And in those learning years, they are so critical. There is so much demand on your time. Whilst you are supposed to be focusing like maybe on your careers, you also should not neglect the children, because that's their critical time when they are learning from you, when you are inputting from you. So one tip that I'll just give for those 7 years is that make sure that you come into a rhythm that suits the two of you. Don't try to be like couple XYZ. Be you in those 7 years, because that's when you're like assuming your identity. I'll tell you a quick example. One of the things we've always done in our lives is that our quiet time, our devotion time is very critical for us. Even when we were just, in our first year, second year, third year, we know that in the morning, the first 15-30 minutes of our day, we are praying and making our declarations. It's a rhythm that we had set, the two of us. When our children came into the picture, guess what? They also then got in, they followed. And right now, I'm gracious. I'm grateful to God that our sons are now mature, 23 and 21. They know God for themselves, and they're doing exploits in Australia where they are. But it's a result of those small things that they got into. We didn't have to say, guys, it's important for you to pray every morning. We just did it. Things like supper time together. At least they just have a routine of having a sit out as a family. And as a young mother in those first 7 years, or young father, also have a timetable. What is it that my children are going to eat on day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? What do they do at 7 a.m., 10 a.m.? Don't just wake up and sleep and sit on the sofa. Because that sort of environment where there's a timetable and a routine and and when things are predictable, it brings confidence to the children. No wonder why God blessed us, and we saw our sons being head boys. Both of them at Hatpen House. Jeremy was the head boy St. George's 2017, because they were coming from that stable sort of environment. Come to the next 7 to 14 years, right? Now, this is where you are. Congratulations on turning 14 here.
Congratulations.
Well done, you guys.
You are trying to catch up with us. You are trying hard to catch up.
We are working.
You have your grade 7, Form 1 children in there. They are pre-teens, they are trying to find out who they are. They want to explore. If it's a son, I would really say the father must then really step in.
The father needs to come in and
daughter,
really model it right.
Yes, yeah.
Because now they are inquisitive. Now they've got so many questions, and they need to. And she's saying the father needs to model right with the son, but equally the father now. If there's a daughter, the father must be the role model of her husband. Those ages, they are very important to the daughters. The mother must be a role model for what a wife wants to be. As a testimony, on your birthdays, it's now consistent. When our son sends messages to her on your birthday, I always laugh at this. They always say, Mom, I would want to marry my wife like you, a wife like you, Mom. I would like to marry a wife like you, Mom. Now that touches me, because they are saying it on their own without us. So that means that she is modeled something right to them.
So those are like your yearning years. You as a couple, you are probably thinking, we want our own house, we want our own stand. What sort of school are we going to send our child? What projects can we do in our lives for us to really graduate from poverty to abundance? It's like a yearning time, and unfortunately, it's both the parents as well as the children, because they are also the adolescents. They are trying to find who they are. So don't worry. Sometimes if you try out many projects that don't work out in Chimbonyura, just continue. I always say to my husband, our 14 years was in our 30s. In our 30s, guys, we did so many projects. We did mushrooms. At one stage, our whole house was mainly mushrooms. We tried to do tires, cross border.
Trials brought
and
water.
we
We
lost
tried
our
to
money.
buy
We
a
did chicken,
gonyet,
gonyets,
those
chicken,
big lorries.
We did poultries. We
Wow,
did,
oh my goodness.
whilst he was running a company and I was in the career world, but somehow it's natural that at this point in time you're trying to go to
the next level.
next level.
Wow.
And it's both ways. And if you're not careful, you'll be so consumed with yourself that you forget that I've also got children that are growing here. So you need to balance it out, and it's okay for you to have one or two failures. Still pick up yourselves. It's not because you are dumb or whatever, or your spouse is not intelligent enough. You know, you hear these divorces around this age because if you are, you know, my husband is not thinking, is not doing, you know, it's not really like that. It's just the time that you are in. So those are the yearning years. And if you are careful and if you survive those, then you're in your, like, you are after beyond 21, that will be your children. You're probably in your 40s now. So that time you start to earn.
Right.
Yes, you start to get some rewards of all
If
the
it
hard
is a
work.
I'm listening to all this you're saying, and I'm thinking.
Relating.
Yes.
So I wanted to earn
Yeah. It's,
at infants.
yes, that's it. You got it, Ivy. You got it.
You are so hungry.
And
I
the
was so
frustration
hungry. The
was there.
frustration of I'm not earning now.
Unmet expectations.
Right.
You want to be driving a car with a
Yeah,
fridge.
with a fridge.
With a fridge at, you know, when you see
Your
someone-
second year of
when you
marriage.
see someone marriage, you know, and you're thinking there's something wrong with that. Just be patient.
Wow.
Enjoy the journey.
Wow.
Enjoy the walking together
Wow, my
from home to
goodness.
Arundel
Yeah.
for 10 kilometers.
Wow.
As much as you enjoy the ride now, you know, in your car and
Yeah.
so forth. As we were enjoying being in Qantas and flying to Australia, you know, like a few years
That's
ago,
so
things
good.
we couldn't afford.
Yeah.
So imagine if we had not enjoyed, if you know, enjoyed the walk or whatever we
Yeah.
did, and wait for that moment when we're in the Qantas. It may never, why it may never come true. If it comes, you're so far apart that you're not enjoying it. So the earning years, you are now reaping. What did you input into your children? What product are they giving you? What, you know, this, we are now at this age and we have sat with parents that are devastated. They've got everything going, but what they getting, the feedback they are getting from their children, now you can't control them. You can't tell them don't do drugs, don't sleep with this girl, don't do, pray. They'll say, pray. When did we ever do this in our home? Yet it's a result of what you've been building. And then lastly now, we call this earning years. I think these are the lovely years, sweetie. This is probably where we are now.
Right.
Yeah? Even in terms of your career, you can now see things coming through. You've done your 10,000 miles, you know, you've been through all the mistakes. Now you're more cautious, as my husband was saying. You know? And then beyond that, we are looking forward to the legacy years. Beyond 28, you know, where now it's about building.
Right.
You know, what is it that you'll be remembered for? You know, you're looking at now people look at us and say, you guys, my pets are kind, but I think they're doing well and so forth. We say, no, we're not done. We are busy praying for the grandchildren now, the children's children. What the word of God says, a righteous man leaves an inheritance for their children and his children's children as well. So the inheritance is not just money, but it's also the legacy of knowing God. So did you want to just be vulnerable and tell them about that prayer that you made when you were not feeling well? And you said, God, I want to read the Bible to my, you remember?
Yes.
Yes, talking about legacy.
Yeah, about legacy. Do you know about going back last year, beginning of last year, we went to the doctor to test if it was coronavirus, but we tested negative. But I still think it was coronavirus. So I really, in the dreams I had were so horrific, and I sweated, and I had not dreamt of my late father. In the dream, I saw my father
like welcoming me.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Die or something.
No, so
and then
you know
you
what?
went to pray
I
to
woke
God,
up
you said,
and he was sweating like a river, and the only thing I could do was to kneel. So I got out of the bed. The pillow was wet, so I got out of bed and I knelt down and I said, God, I have trusted in you. There is no way I'm going to die without teaching my grandchildren the Bible. So for me it was a declaration before God. And I said, you know what, whatever it's gonna do, there's no way, let's not even talk about it. You and me, I haven't talked, but there is a promise that I've made that I want to teach my grandchildren the Bible.
Wow.
So these are the things that sometimes they're reality, because right now I was at the point of death and I knew that I'm really sick. The way I'm shaking, the way I'm sweating, definitely this is not right. And the dreams are telling me they're trying to confirm something else. So, but the essence of it was, I thought about my grandchildren. And I said, if they come, would they have someone who really teach them the Bible with that heart? Yeah. So I've got some statistics that I just want to speak. These statistics, they actually also, this was taken in 2018, so you can say prior COVID. So they say 10% of marriages end up after 0 to 2 years of solemnization. 10%. 17% of marriages end after 2 to 5 years of solemnization. 27% of marriages end after 5 to 10 years. Now, I want us to take juxtapose or to put what we're talking about, the 7 years. You find that some of the constraints that you start seeing, like 27% of marriages, they happen between 5 to 10 years, is because of issues, variables. Children are coming in, demands of school fees, demands. So there's so many housing, mortgage. You want to buy a house, so there's a lot of demand on that stage, and you find that it goes down. 19% of marriages they end between 10 to 15 years after solemnization. You see, it just gone down because some people have put on the thick coat. They've learned to master it. So you find that the divorce rate is now slowly going down. And it's manageable. But there's a very funny statistics that I've got here, where they're saying actually 52, they're saying 5 out of every 10 marriages for 50 and above, there are divorces now that are happening. 5 out of every 10. 50 years. These guys have been married more than 50 years.
Wow.
So it tells you something, huh? Number one, most probably midlife crisis. Number two, they most probably were sustained with children. Now the children are gone. They are empty nesters. They have themselves to face morning, evening, and every other time. So it's also a way of checking out that it's not just a walk in the park for us at 25 years. We actually have to be more continue, because the forces, they are now coming from different angles that we did not even expect. Yeah, our children now, I mean, when we were in Australia, they were driving us and they would be arguing, hey, let's take this right. And I'm saying to myself, if I ever thought that I would allow them to have argument when they're driving, well, I would have gone in front, guys going to sit at the back, I am in charge here, and nothing everything to go to do.
Oh my God, they are decided.
If you're not having any contribution, you don't know where they're going. Yeah,
so there's that a lot of that disconnection, and we need to worry. We need to always then be careful. That's why we said you always need to revisit. There's a concept that I'm trying to adopt with several of the couples that I'm working with. It's called the vision retreat. The vision retreat is in a sense where husband and wife, you go away, maybe for 5 days. You leave the children, and the vision is to see yourself eyeball to eyeball. You see yourself. You start by confession. My love, you know what? I did this wrong. I was. There's no need to worry because you guys, you are together. So you confess. Then you start soul searching. Where are we going actually? Where do you think we may need to make this thing? And the vision retreat, I feel it as a time of refreshing, rewinding, rejuvenation. You want to do it not with a counselor, not with a pastor, but as a husband and wife. Why I'm saying the children have to remain behind, because I'm seeing that the empty nesters, some of them, they're being attacked heavy because the children have gone. So the wife most probably was staying in the marriage because of the children. Even the husband sometimes may hang on to the marriage because of the children. Now when the children are gone, you have to face reality. So the vision retreat, in essence, encourages us to relook into ourselves, to relook into our dating. That, you know what, when we were dating, what was it that made us laugh, that made us feel long to be together?
Wow. You know, I really I'm absolutely loving it. I think for me, I just have one more question that I'd like to pose at you. After having been married for 25 years, obviously there are things that you got right and there are things that you got wrong. I mean, you said that things are Munyeza and things like that. After 25 years, like, how do you deal with regret? Like, do you ever face regret of saying maybe we should have done things this way or should have done things that way? I mean, one of the examples that my wife had given was, like, for instance, you have 2 children. Do you ever look back and say maybe we could have had 4? Like, was it whose fault was it? Was it because you were studying too hard and that we didn't have time to have children? Was it because you're focusing on your career more and so it, you know, like all of those little things, you know, or missed opportunities here that, you know, how do you deal with that now looking back?
I'll answer. My wife also wanted to answer. So some of the things, remember I said that in any marriage you always have the summer, autumn, winter, spring. This they call them the winter seasons are most probably the seasons that you have lots to regret over. The way we looked at it as my wife was, we always say, what are the lessons we learned? More than we regret. Yeah, I'll tell you that the ventures that we tried to do, okay, there's one good example we always give, and I thought she was going to share it. You know, the first 5 years, 5 years of our marriage, we managed to buy the Pajero. And the Pajero in that year, to be honest with you, was like compared to maybe the Range Rover. Beautiful car. So we bought the car. Everyone was happy. Extended family members were happy. Everyone, church was happy. Everyone take a ride in the Pajero. And then, lo and behold, the elections, was it 2000 and what? The elections came. The elections came.
If you forget it,
I forget. So, the elections came. And they said, we're looking for Pajeros, we're looking for 4x4s. Guys, we're going to pay you upfront so much money. Says, 200,000 upfront. Yes. Come on, man. That's a good one. We can save everyone. Let's release this one here. We decided,
for hire.
So we went to release, we give it the money. But I remember the third day after releasing the car, the police came. It was a Tuesday. The police came to our house. Oh, is this the house for Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Yeah, that's our house. Yeah. Is everything wrong? Yeah. I want to sit down with you. Guys, tell us, is everything right? No. Allow us to sit down with you in the house. Now we are all knowing that this may be some bad news or some reality. So we didn't sit down. They said, you are the owners of a Pajero. We said, yeah, we are the owners. We said to tell you that it was involved in a bad accident, bent the person beyond recognition, car. So we said, no. You mean it was bent? It can't. He says, no, we're telling you. So, and I was sitting, I said, it's a car. Do you know, it was the police officer told us in the evening, we didn't sleep. She had to stop and say, I know you are not yet sleeping. I said, yeah, and you also.
I know you're awake.
You're awake. So we had to drive the following morning to the place where so she tell us, so we went. We want to sit physically. And for sure, we went there. And we even asked, it had a good spare wheel. Where did it go? He said, it was bent also. So everything was in it. So we had to do it. But that was not the bad news. The bad news was telling the relatives.
Oh, the car is gone.
The next biggest thing that we encountered in our marriage, guys, we want to know whose decision was.
So already we were regretting, but now how to deal with the family. Like, you guys are irresponsible. Would you really want to set up that car?
You guys have enough money. Why did you have to hire out?
And so now we always laugh with the husband and say, it's actually a car where people came to almost pay condolences. Also, for the family.
No, people came to pay condolences for the car. I said, we are alive, guys. We are.
Others would say, no, I think it's Vincent, because this looks like Vincent's idea. And I say, but it could be
Priscilla.
Priscilla. So they were actually now wanting to like sort of divide us to
Yeah,
say,
separate
who
us.
made that. Between ourselves, we know who made the decision. We never disclose it. So we say this is power of
Who do you think
agreement
made
now.
the decision?
Please don't go to decide wrong now.
Let's keep people guessing.
But you know, it's like that's the power of agreement. When
Yeah.
you agree on something and the decision goes wrong, that's when that power is really
Right.
tested,
Yeah.
whether it's there or not, you
Right.
know. Because now we were in it together and we had to face the consequences. Insurance was very low because it was a politically motivated, whatever accident. So we actually basically lost it.
Yeah.
Now, just to answer your question, Simba, about how we deal with regrets and lost opportunities, of course they are there. We actually sometimes list them and say, yeah, if we had done this, we'd done this, and so forth and so forth. But there's a saying that we have that, you know what, when you now look at the blessings that God has given us, they outweigh those
Wow.
other missed opportunities.
Powerful.
So it's an attitude that we've now decided to adopt, to say, sweetie, let's not die bitter and say if this had happened
Wow.
and that had happened, you know, what would have happened, what would, you know, things would be somewhere else, because we don't know for sure. Because sometimes an opportunity can look good in hindsight, but you'd never know why
Wow,
God actually
God's-
didn't
yeah,
get you to
protected.
heaven.
Yeah.
So we
Protected you from-
really trust that where we are, you know, God has led us to be where we are, and we are grateful for where we are, and it helps. But yes, those regrets come, but don't give them time. You can't do anything about it
Yeah.
anymore, and just you know, take what is there now, accept the blessings that God has given you, and count those and move on. Yeah.
At what stage did you then just come to peace with the terms that there are certain things that you wanted him to change that are never going to change? At what stage did you then say, I think it's okay, I wanted her to do this and that, but it's not happening, and I want to continue to love her all the same?
There was not so much of a stage, but there's a principle that we all say: don't sweat the small things.
Yes.
You know, it's a good example because it just happened before we came in. So my wife said, I put out my face because the two gentlemen that I'm here, their shirts out and they were looking swaggy. So I said, maybe I'm the one who is the old man out. So I took my shirt out. And when I was taking my shirt out, my wife says, oh, no. Please tuck in that shirt. So I said, don't sweat the small like let me tuck back. And I will get tucked in my
Yeah.
I'm using that as an example. And sometimes in marriage, we've got so many fighting spheres, so many fighting grounds. When it's supposed to be, guys, come on, I will give in to this.
Right.
This will not kill it.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah. And I think the
That's
basis
so
of
good.
that is that I've learned to understand my husband, who he is. And I acknowledge that he's different from me. Me, if you give me somewhere to color, I'll color inside the box. I will not leave the edges of the box. My husband will first ask, why is the box a spare one? Why
That's it, actually.
couldn't
Could
it
it
be
be
like
simple
zigzag or
or
something?
something, yeah.
And why are we using blue? That's him. That's him. That if it's any different, then it's not my husband. So I've learned to accept it, Ivy, that you know what, the way we see life is different. My husband is a popular sanguine, for example. He can say, look, we'll be there tomorrow, we'll do this, and that's him. But me now, I know that as the administrator, I have to say, sweetie, on our promise, and now we have to do it. And I feel like I have to do it. But it's not, I know that it's not coming out of him wanting to fix me, but I am actually, that's who he is. So I'm just urging couples to say that accept your dude, or accept your babe, or accept your sweetie, who they are, understand them, and then say, okay, how do we work together in the confines of it? My husband says, these guys, where you work, they don't know my wife. My wife is a perfect melancholy. You attend to detail. So he is doing some of the posts.
Every page my wife goes through. And by the way, do you know what? the things that brought you together in your
That's
romantic
it.
courtship are the things that you are now fighting
My
against
gosh.
each other.
Yeah.
Yet when you
Wow.
look at it, it says, actually, the reason why I liked this
Wow.
lady is the same thing that I'm now trying to
Wow,
fight
my
against.
goodness.
And
Wow.
what I loved is I loved the way my husband would be like, think outside the box, be adventurous.
Wow, he wasn't
We can do
contained.
this
Yes.
together. Yeah. So now that can easily
wow.
become a source of frustration
Right.
because now I'm saying not fun of
Yeah.
so that understanding each other, Simba, I think that is the key to having that sorted in terms of you accepting your partner. So as my husband said, it won't be like one particular stage. You'll never quite get there. We are still trying to become 125 years later, but it's much better now with that understanding.
Wow.
So one of the
Wow.
things, I'll just say some statements so that
Closing.
one of the ironies of contemporary family life is that many people are good at intentional parenting. So many couples are very good at intentional parenting, but are lousy at intentional marriage. So at parenting, looking after our children, you can find husband and wife bending backwards. But now, how are you doing the same to your own? Great marriages don't just happen anymore than just accomplished football players. With the Messis, the Cristiano Ronaldos, they've put in hours to be where they are. So don't expect that our marriage is not great without you putting hours into that marriage. So I'm challenging us that we need to work on our marriages. The great marriages don't just come up. They are after hours and hours of working at it. Yes, we are looking at us. We are not yet what we want to be. People may say, oh wow, we say, no, guys, we are still working hard to get to where we want to be. Yeah.
My goodness me. This has been
we could go
amazing. We could
could.
actually. In fact, we were actually only supposed to do like 15 to 20 minutes.
Here we are.
But it was so good that we just thought, you know what, let's just let it
Yeah.
flow. And I have learned so much. I mean, with having been married for 14 years, you think you kind of have mastered a few things, one or two things. But when you then get to hear the other side, you're like, oh my gosh, wow,
Yeah.
I'm just a toddler in this, you know.
Yeah.
So this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, you know, for being vulnerable and even letting us in on some of the inside
Yeah.
scoops, some of the inside stories of your marriage over the last 25 years. And so we want to celebrate you, you know, for having been married for 25 years. You are our heroes. And, you know, in this day and age where the marriage institution is under so much attack, it's always amazing to see people that are still holding the fort, that are still standing strong and standing firm. And not only standing firm, but that are also encouraging others to stand firm. You know, living out by encouraging people by the way that they live, you know, by the way that they speak, the way that they conduct themselves. And you are such heroes for us. If there was a marriage 11, Hebrews 11, you would be in our marriage 11, you know, the heroes of marriage. So thank you so much. You know, may God continue to bless you, God continue to extend you, and we look forward to the next 25. And we look forward to continuing to we'll absolutely, because we know we've only just, you know, so there's still so much more that we can tap out of you. So we'll definitely be calling you back again for more.
We are part of you guys.
Yeah.
We love you guys. We will be with you guys. You are doing the best thing for our nation and for our generation. And even internationally. Keep doing it, man.
Thank you
We
so
love
much. So if you want a copy of their book, Becoming One, please, you know, comment, put in the comment section, or even inbox us, and we'll definitely get you a copy. I'll figure out how we can get it to you. If you're not in Zimbabwe, we'll make a plan. Somehow, there's always, we are Zimbabweans, make a plan. We'll figure out how you know you can get a copy of Becoming One. It's an absolutely amazing book. We have a copy. It's an amazing book, and it'll teach you how to become. In fact, it's pretty much what they've been talking about today in a book form. Now you can get to read it. You can get to have the notes with you, and you know, get to refer to these notes as you go in your marriage. So
Yeah, thank you so much for letting us in on the Pajeros, the Master Pajeros. And also for me, I think the key thing was just you sharing, but us and getting to understand where we are at, where some of the frustrations that we're having, and some of the wondering, why are we now behaving in this way in the 14th year? Just that understanding of what's going on. We really appreciate it. So thank you so much for speaking life into the marriage institution and always being available.
And a special thank you to our sponsors, Just Home. Turn your house into a home. You gotta visit a Just Home shop. We are here in Westgate Mall. They also have a branch at 5 Avenue Shopping Center. So you can just step in their couches, their cushions,
works.
tables, the works, everything, every single thing that you need to turn your house into a home. You'll find it in Just Home. Also at Crystal Gates Bookshop, all Christian memorabilia that you can need, whether it's gifts, merchandise, books, whatever you need, you will find it in Crystal Gates bookstore at Westgate Shopping Mall. Thank you so much to our two biggest sponsors for making this all possible. So yeah, my name is Simba,
And I'm Ivy.
or you can call us Mr. and Mrs. And remember,
Keep on loving.
keep on loving. Goodbye.